It's not often that scientific discovery dominates the news, but on July 4th, 2012, even Independence Day was the second biggest topic, as that was the day the Higgs boson was discovered. Scientists talked about it, debating and discussing its implications, but if you're a casual viewer like me, they seem to be talking in gibberish. To truly understand the Higgs boson, we must first talk about why it was theorized. In 1964, there was a hole in the model of the universe. Scientists were confused as why some elementary particles had greater mass than others, especially particles such as electrons and photons, which were similar in structure, yet electrons had small mass and photons had no mass at all. To fill this gap, Dr. Peter Higgs proposed the Higgs field. The Higgs field is an energy field that permeates the entire universe, giving elementary particles such as quarks and leptons mass depending on how much they react with the Higgs field. The Higgs boson is just an excitation of this field, much like when you throw a rock into a pond. The splash you see would be the Higgs boson.
Let's try something more modern and relatable. How about the new game Pokemon Go? You can imagine the Higgs field like the Pokemon in Pokemon Go, and people as elementary particles. If a person who did not play Pokemon Go walked through a field of Pokemon, he wouldn't mind it, quickly passing through the field without slowing down. This person is much like a massless particle, not reacting to the Higgs field. Now imagine a person who was addicted to Pokemon Go walked into the same field. He would catch every Pokemon, slowing down and reacting heavily with the field. This person would be like a massive particle that reacts heavily with the field. It is important to note that the particles were equal before going into the Higgs field, and it was their interactions with the Higgs field that determined their mass. Now imagine that the Pokemon were able to avoid players. If a player were to take a step near a field of Pokemon, the Pokemon in front would see it first and move back. Then the Pokemon behind would see the Pokemon in front moving back, and also move back, and so on and so forth until all the Pokemon had moved back. The Pokemon are in an excited state, and this excitation would be the Higgs boson.
If you dug deeper, you may have heard that the Higgs field could potentially destroy our universe. So what's that about? Well, there are two states to the Higgs field. The regular Higgs field, which is the one we live in right now, and the ultra-dense Higgs field, which is, drumroll please, denser. These two states are much like solids and liquids, where when enough energy is put into one of them, usually in the form of heat, it turns into the other. Though our universe does not have the energy to change our regular Higgs field into the ultra-dense Higgs field, there's a chance it will happen anyway. Well, according to the theory of quantum tunneling, sometimes particles can pass through barriers they cannot normally pass. If this sounds confusing, imagine the particle like a ball on a hill, with an equally tall hill on the other side. According to the classical laws of motion and energy, this ball will never get to the other side of the hill. But as things get smaller and smaller, the classical theories start to break down. In fact, when this ball goes down the hill, there's a tiny chance that the ball will end up on the other side of the hill, or even right on top of the hill. If a small part of our universe were to suddenly quantum tunnel into the ultra-dense Higgs field, then our universe would be destroyed. This is because the ultra-dense Higgs field is millions of billions of times more dense than our current Higgs field, and though we may not realize it in ordinary life, our current mass is crucial to our survival. Just about 10 times more massive, and atoms would shrink, neutrons would decay, and the only element left in our universe would be hydrogen. So, do we have to worry about dying from this? Well, probably not, as scientists have predicted it's unlikely to happen in the next Google or 10 to the 100 years. But unlikely is not the same as impossible, and maybe it's already happened somewhere, slowly engulfing our entire universe. Looks like the greatest discovery of 2012 may have just been our worst nightmare.